Hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. My name is Kelly and I'm a former wedding planner and blogger, and I'm obsessed with weddings. If you're planning a wedding in Ireland, you're in the right place. You're going to learn the tried and tested methods to planning your dream wedding without the added stress. Think of this as your one-stop shop for everything to do with planning your wedding in Ireland. With me, your new wedding planning bestie, and a cup of tea. This is Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. Well, hello and welcome to Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online. My name is Kelly, I'm your host, and we're going to be talking about wedding traditions today. But first, if you missed last week's episode, we were talking all about bridesmaids' expenses and what bridesmaids should really expect to pay for. So I went through a list of things and I explained different scenarios where sometimes it's the bridesmaids who pay, sometimes it's the couple, and some things where it's very clear-cut that it is the bridesmaids or it is the couple. So if you're a bridesmaid or if you have bridesmaids and you missed that episode, don't worry. You can go back and listen. It is episode 38. It's last week's episode. So go and find that. It's a really good one. But let's get started on today's topic of wedding traditions. Now, you might consider yourself to be a traditional kind of couple, and maybe there are a few things that you just really want to do at your wedding because it feels right for you. And if that's you, by all means, go for it. I would say I'm kind of halfway between traditional and non-traditional. So my husband and I, when we got married, we did a couple of things that you would say are traditional. And I'll explain some of those as I go. But we also did a couple of things that are perhaps non-traditional and a bit more personal to us. So before I even list some of these traditions and before I even tell you where the traditions come from and why we actually do them, I'm going to say you basically don't have to do many things. So when it comes to getting married in Ireland, there are a couple of things that in order to have your marriage be legally recognized, you're going to have to do them. But I'm going to drop a link to our legal weddings episode because we had some experts who joined us and they explained all the legal sides of things. So when it comes to registering your intent to marry, all the documents that you need and the timeframes, all that kind of thing. When it comes to the legal side of things, there are a few things that you actually have to do. And so that episode will break it down for you. But when it comes to what we're sharing today, the gist of it is that most things you don't have to do. You can choose to celebrate your love. You can choose to, commit yourselves to one another by sharing your vows in any way that fits you. So I'm going to walk you through 3 traditions, and I'm going to explain where those traditions actually came from, what they mean, and what you can do if you find yourself not sure if you want to do this or if you might want to do it, but you don't know if it fits. So, first one, the white wedding dress. Now, many of us have grown up being told that in order to wear a white wedding dress on your wedding, it's actually a symbol of your purity. You know, it's a virgin on her wedding day in her white dress. So you might be thinking, oh no, if I'm not a virgin, can I wear a white wedding dress? And the simple answer is yes, you can. So maybe you already have children with your partner or you've been living together for many years and you want to get married now. If that's you and you want to wear a wedding dress that's white, by all means, no one's going to be like, who does she think she is? It's 2023. We're not living in that type of society where people judge each other for that kind of thing. But equally, if you look at the white wedding dress and you think, is that really me? Do I have to wear a white wedding dress? The simple answer, no. So I'm going to tell you where the white wedding dress actually comes from. So I mentioned before that, we've kind of grown up being told that it has to do with purity and that symbol of purity because it's white and it's clean. But actually, back in the day, when people got married, specifically people who were royal, when they got married, it was actually the more colorful, the better. So you would have a lot of red dresses, and it was kind of the symbol of like a royal wedding. It was more colorful, more extravagant. And then Queen Victoria came along and she got married to Prince Albert in 1840, and she decided that she was going to wear a white dress, and that became really popular. So she actually made it a thing. And it had nothing to do with purity. It was just a style choice that she made. And people were like, this is amazing. And so instead of going for the heavily embroidered wedding gowns, the red, the lots of color type of gown, people were inspired by Queen Victoria from her wedding day, and people started to wear white wedding dresses. So that's where that came from. So if you're in a place where you think, I really want to wear a white wedding dress, but I don't fit the criteria, hey, if you're getting married, that's enough for you to say, yes, I can wear a white wedding dress. And if you think, actually, white is not my thing, that's fine. You don't have to. I actually wore a blush pink dress. It was very, very light. So it looked almost white, but it was more on the pink side of things, and I love pink, and so I thought this feels very me. It had nothing to do with purity or not purity. It was just a stylistic choice. I just really like pink, and so I thought I want to wear something that feels like me, and so I went for a blush pink dress. I really liked it. My husband liked it, so that's a win. But over the years, we've seen a lot of brides wearing champagne or light grey, or some really bold brides going for colours that aren't like almost white, but really out there colours. We've seen red. We've actually seen this incredible black wedding dress, kind of gothic theme. So the key here is to choose what fits for you and pick something that you feel comfortable in, and don't worry too much about the origin of the tradition and if it fits for you. If you want to do it, do it. Okay, next one. Walking down the aisle with your dad. Okay, so the origin of this tradition is not great. It actually comes from bartering, and when women were considered to be property, and the idea of the bride's father giving her away, he was basically saying, this woman is no longer my property. I'm literally giving her away. And there were all kinds of agreements and financial things that were happening in the background. And so basically to say, you don't have to have your dad walking down the aisle, but this is also an amazing opportunity to honor the relationship that you have with your dad if you have a great one. I had my dad walk me down the aisle. It was a very special moment. And so my husband, well, obviously it wasn't my husband at the time, but my now husband was waiting at the end of the aisle, and he had his parents with him. And my dad walked me down the aisle. And when we all kind of met, my dad decided to go off script, and he actually ended up hugging both me and my husband at the same time. And it was this hilarious moment where like the three of us were like hugging each other and laughing. And it was really special, actually. Totally unplanned, totally unscripted, but it was a really special moment where I got to honor my dad. My husband got to have his parents with him. My mom was around somewhere. I don't remember exactly where she was, but we were all there, and it was just a very special moment for us. But I also recognize that not everybody has a dad. Not everybody has a good relationship with their dad, and you should never feel like you have to have your dad be that person who walks you down the aisle. So if you want to honor your dad in that moment, it's a great way to do it. If you have a stepdad, a grandfather, an uncle, another man in your life who has really been a father figure to you, it's a great way to honor that person. Equally, if you've been raised by your mother, you could even ask her to walk you down the aisle. There's so many scenarios where it makes more sense to have somebody else in that position. And there are also scenarios where you've got, excuse me, there are also scenarios where you've got multiple people that you want to honor. For example, if you have a good relationship with your dad and a good relationship with your stepdad, and perhaps they've been involved in your lives for a very, very long time, you could do something like having one of them walk you down the aisle to a certain point, and then the other one meeting you, they, kind of exchange, and then you walk the rest of the way with the other person. Consider your different options, but don't feel like you have to do it one way or the other. And you know what? If you are very confident, you want to celebrate the fact that you're an independent woman, why not just walk down the aisle solo? If that's your style, go for it, because you don't have to do it any one way. Okay, now the final tradition that we're going to talk about, it's not specifically a tradition, it's just a thing that a lot of people do. And that is getting married in a church. There are lots of reasons to get married in a church. People say that when they're in a church, it feels peaceful, it feels serene. You can feel like you're in this place that's so beautiful that you can't help but be in awe of the space and what it symbolizes. So many people who don't consider themselves religious want to be in a space like that. And can you blame them? It's beautiful, it's peaceful, And on a day like your wedding day, why not be in a space like that? So you might be wondering, oh, I'm not very religious, but I really want to get married in a church. Is that okay? The simple answer, that's totally okay. And you might also be thinking, well, you know what, I'm not very religious and it doesn't feel like me to be in that type of setting. What should I do? Well, you don't have to be in that type of setting. So I mentioned before that we've got an episode, we actually have 2 episodes all about the legal side of things. And I'm going to drop a link to both of those because in the second part of that series, we unpack the different types of ceremonies. And one of them is called a religious ceremony. So that's Catholic, Protestant, Muslim, pagan, multi-faith, or any other kind of religious ceremony. Most of those, you will be going to the religious building. Like, for example, for a Catholic wedding, you would go to a Catholic church, and that's where you would exchange vows, and that's where all the legal side of things would happen in front of your friends and family. But you can also have a solemnizer go out to your wedding venue, and it all just comes down to what you would like to do and what is possible based on the specific type of wedding you want to have and the solemnizer or the celebrant or the officiant, whoever is there making the legal side of things happen. My advice is to decide what you would like to do, have a conversation with the person who's legally marrying you and see what's possible. But if your wedding venue offers an amazing outdoor space with scenic views and there's some other kind of non-religious setting that feels right for you, perhaps you are a church goer and you just think, you know what, even though I love my church, I'd love to get married outside. That's totally fine. Find out what's possible. And we did also do a whole episode about what to do. Just the legal side of things. What happens if you want to get legally married in one space? What do you do? Can you get legally married before the wedding day? You totally can. And then you could have what's considered a symbolic ceremony. And then you can really have that wherever you want, and you can have whoever you want conduct that ceremony. But when it comes to these 3 items, so it was the white wedding dress, it was having your dad walking down the aisle, and then getting married in a church. When it comes to all 3 of those things, the summary is you don't have to do anything one particular way. You can pick something that feels right for you, but it's important to consider the symbol behind what you would like that moment to represent. So whether that is wearing a white wedding dress to signify the change in your relationship, to signify something really special is happening on that day, go for it. Whether that's having your dad walking down the aisle because you want to honor him, or having your mum or your children or walking down the aisle on your own. Pick the moment that feels best for you, or getting married in a church because it's a really peaceful, serene space, or getting married somewhere else because maybe church isn't the right space for you. Do what feels right for you. That's my advice. You don't have to stick with any of these traditions. Well, thank you for listening today. The Wedding Wednesdays with Weddings Online podcast is produced by me, Kelly, and mixed, mastered, and edited by Glenn Hartman. For more wedding planning tips, advice, checklists, and more, visit weddingsonline.ie.